The first thing everyone noticed was the silence of the yacht. Not the white hull shining under the morning sun. Not the polished chrome rails. Not the glass bridge windows. Not the VIP guests standing on the private marina deck with champagne they were too nervous to drink. Just the silence. The Whitmore Aurelia, 88. An 88-foot white and silver luxury motor yacht built to impress people who measured time in contracts and distance in coastlines. Sat dead at the end of Pier 3. Its deck lights had flickered twice. The bridge panel had blinked. And then everything had gone quiet again. Around it, engineers in pressed polos and yacht crew in spotless uniforms moved with the quick, embarrassed energy of people trying not to look embarrassed. Claire Whitmore stood near the boarding stairs in a cream-white suit that made the marina staff look even more ordinary by comparison. She was 43, billionaire CEO of Whitmore Yachts, owner of the marina, and the kind of woman who could turn a failure into someone else's fault before the cameras found her face. Behind her waited charter clients, investors, and a small group of lifestyle media guests invited to watch the Aurelia 88 start, glide from the dock, and prove that Whitmore's new luxury service line was worth every number in the brochure. Instead, the yacht had refused to complete its startup sequence 3 times. The generator bay clicked. The bridge panel stalled. And the main system stayed locked like a rich man's vault. Claire looked at Trent Lawson, her chief yacht engineer. "Again," she said. Trent nodded too quickly and gave instructions to 2 technicians near the access panel. The same sequence followed. A low hum. A short prime sound. 1 wrong click from the generator bay. And then silence. Daniel Cross heard the click from 30 feet away. He was standing near a dock cart with a coil of shore cable over one shoulder, wearing a navy work shirt, dark work pants, and boots that had seen more bilgewater than boardrooms. He was a dock mechanic, contract service tech, the man people called when something smelled hot, leaked slowly, or stopped working after everyone important had left. He had one hand on the cable and the other on a small tool pouch, but his eyes were on the starboard access area. Claire turned to the guests and smiled as if the yacht were merely being dramatic for effect. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, bright enough for the whole dock to hear, "I will make this simple. $1 million to the person who gets my yacht started before my guests lose their patience." The crowd reacted with a nervous laugh. Someone lifted a phone. Someone else whispered, "Is she serious?" Claire's smile sharpened. "Completely. $1 million. Because, apparently, a $40 million yacht and a team of premium engineers still need motivation." Trent's face tightened, but he forced a laugh with everyone else. Daniel did not move at first. He only listened. That was what most people did not understand about machines near water. They told you things before they failed. But they did not shout. They clicked, dragged, missed, hesitated, or went quiet in the wrong place. The Aurelia 88 was not acting like a yacht with a dead main engine. It was acting like a yacht waiting for permission from a system no one was asking. Daniel looked toward the marina office, where his 9-year-old son Ethan stood behind the glass with a small blue and white toy boat in his hand. School had a half day. The sitter had canceled, and Daniel had brought Ethan to the marina with a coloring book and a promise that the morning would be boring. It was no longer boring. A young technician reached for the generator panel again, and Daniel finally spoke. "It's not the main engine." His voice was not loud, but the words landed in the wrong kind of quiet. Trent turned first. "What Daniel set the shore cable down. You're chasing the main engine. But the lockout is upstream. That click is from the generator prime sequence failing to clear the shore power interlock." Several crew members stared at him. Claire turned slowly, still smiling. But now the smile was aimed like a knife. "And you are?" she asked. Daniel wiped his hand once on his work pants. "Daniel Cross, Dock service. Claire's eyes moved over his shirt. His boots. The tool pouch. And the cable at his feet. Dock service. She repeated. How fortunate. The man who coils cables has diagnosed my yacht. A few people laughed because Claire wanted them to. Ethan heard it through the office door when it opened behind him. He stepped out onto the shaded side of the dock, holding his toy boat close to his chest. Daniel saw him and wished he had stayed behind the glass. Claire saw the boy too, but she did not soften. Mr. Cross, she said, projecting now. This is an Aurelia 88. It is not a rental skiff. My chief engineer has spent 3 hours on this issue. My manufacturer liaison is on the phone. My guests are waiting. And you believe the answer came to you while you were dragging cable across my dock? Daniel looked back at the yacht. Then at the generator bay. No, he said. It came from the sound it made when it stopped. Claire laughed once. And this time the crowd followed more easily. The sound, she said. Wonderful. Did the yacht whisper to you? Daniel did not answer the insult. He had learned long ago that humiliation only grows when you feed it. Ethan stepped closer to a dock post. Small toy boat still in hand. Eyes locked on his father. Daniel saw the question forming before the boy asked it. Why are they laughing if you are trying to help? It hit Daniel harder than Claire's voice. He could handle being dismissed. He had been dismissed by people with cleaner shoes for years. But a child watching his father become small in public was a different kind of wound. If you have ever seen a quiet parent get judged by their clothes before anyone understood their skill, stay with this story. Tell me where you are listening from. Because what Daniel heard on that dock was not luck. And what happened in the next 4 minutes would make an entire marina go silent. Victor Hale stepped forward from the VIP group before Claire could turn away. He was 61. A senior marine surveyor with sun-cut lines around his eyes, and the patient posture of a man who had watched expensive vessels embarrass arrogant owners all over the world. He had been invited by one of the charter clients to review the Aurelia after the demonstration. He was not employed by Claire, which made him inconveniently useful. What exactly did you hear? Victor asked. Claire's expression cooled. Victor. Please. But Victor kept looking at Daniel. Daniel pointed toward the starboard generator access bay without touching anything. The prime cycle starts. But it stops too cleanly. Not fuel starvation. Not a main start failure. It sounds like the generator is waiting for an interlock state to clear. But the bridge panel thinks it already has. Victor's face changed just enough for Trent to notice. That's specific, Victor said. Trent stepped in quickly. It's also wrong. We checked shore disconnect. We checked generator status. We checked bridge power twice. Daniel looked at him. Did you check the bulletin reset order after switching from shore power to onboard prime? Trent's mouth moved before words came. There is no bulletin relevant to this start failure. Daniel did not argue. He only looked at the small amber indicator above the lower service panel near the boarding stairs. It blinked once. Paused. Then blinked twice. Most people saw a tiny light. Daniel saw a sentence. Claire folded her arms. Enough. I will not let a dock mechanic touch a $40 million yacht because he heard a click. Daniel nodded. Then don't. He picked up the shore cable as if the conversation were over. Ethan's shoulders sank. That hurt more than anything else. Victor glanced at Claire. Then at the yacht. Then back at Daniel. If he is wrong, we lose 4 minutes. Victor said. If he is right, your guests stop watching your team fail. Claire's eyes flashed. And if he damages my yacht, Victor said. Supervised access. No tools beyond panel reset. No mechanical disassembly. I'll stand there. Trent can stand there. You can stand there. The guests were listening now. So were the phones. Claire hated being cornered by reason in public. Her $1 million bet. Meant to humiliate her own team into performance. had created an opening she could not close without looking afraid. She turned to Daniel. 4 minutes, she said. Not 5. You do not remove parts. You do not improvise. You do not touch anything my chief engineer tells you not to touch. And when you fail, you walk back to your cables quietly. Daniel set the coil down again. I don't need the $1 million, he said. I need permission. Claire lifted her chin. You have 4 minutes. Victor checked his watch. Supervised, he said. Starting when he reaches the panel, Daniel walked toward the boarding stairs, and the dock seemed to narrow around him. Trent stood close, stiff with anger. Claire stood behind him, arms crossed. Victor positioned himself to see both Daniel's hands and the panel. Ethan stayed near the dock post, toy boat pressed against his chest, breathing like he was the one about to be tested. Daniel paused at the service panel and looked once at the yacht's bridge windows. Years earlier, before Lena got sick, before hospital bills and school pickups and nights spent repairing old outboards for cash, Daniel had worked as a marine systems technician for a subcontractor that helped integrate generator control logic on luxury vessels just like this one. He had left that world without ceremony. But the machines had not forgotten the rules. Victor said, Go. Daniel opened the lower service panel with a standard latch. Not a tool. He did not reach deep into the yacht. He did not pull wires. He did not perform magic. He looked at the indicator state, then asked Trent. Was this vessel on shore power overnight? Trent snapped. Obviously, Daniel said. And did your team attempt onboard prime before clearing the dock interlock after the failed transfer? Trent's jaw flexed. We followed standard start procedure. Daniel looked at the blinking amber light. That's the problem. This isn't standard after a failed transfer. He pressed one protected reset switch and waited. Nothing dramatic happened. A few people behind Claire smirked. Expecting failure to announce itself, Daniel counted under his breath. 12 seconds. 13. 14. He listened for the generator bay. Then turned to the bridge panel. Marisol, he called. The assistant dock manager, who had been standing near the office with a tablet, startled at hearing her name. Yes, can you confirm shore pedestal is isolated? Not just disconnected. Marisol looked at Trent, then at Claire, then at the pedestal indicator. It shows isolated. Daniel nodded. Thank you. He turned back to the panel and pressed the second sequence control. The yacht gave a low hum. The deck lights blinked once, then held steady. The crowd murmured. Trent stepped forward. That doesn't mean Victor raised one hand without looking at him. The hum deepened. Daniel moved to the bridgeside start panel with Victor beside him. Do not start main propulsion, Victor said quietly. Daniel nodded. Not trying to. He tapped the generator enable, waited for the green indicator, then stopped. He listened again. This time the wrong click did not come. Instead, the generator bay completed the prime cycle with a smooth, rising tone. Daniel looked at the timer on Victor's watch. 2 minutes and 5 seconds. He asked Marisol for confirmation of onboard systems handover. She stared at the tablet. Bridge auxiliary is alive, she said, surprise breaking through her professional voice. Navigation panel is waking up. Stabilizer control is responding. The guests leaned forward as if the yacht itself had become a courtroom witness. Claire's smile had vanished. Is it started or not? She demanded. Daniel did not look at her. It is completing safe startup. That is different from forcing it. He waited for the final indicator, then nodded to Victor. Victor checked the panel. Then the generator response. Then the bridge feed. Proceed to idle systems only, Victor said. Daniel pressed the final start enable. The Aurelia 88 came alive by degrees. Not with a roar, but with a controlled vibration through the dock. A steady generator tone. bridge displays lighting behind the glass, deck systems holding, and the yacht's quiet luxury returning like breath to a body. Victor looked at his watch. 3 minutes. 52 seconds. The marina went silent. Not almost silent. Silent. The kind of silence people make when money, status, and certainty all lose an argument at the same time. Ethan looked from the yacht to his father, his mouth slightly open, the little blue and white toy boat hanging loose in his hand. The engineers who had laughed now stared at the panel Daniel had barely touched. Claire stood frozen near the boarding stairs. The CEO, who had offered $1 million as a performance of power, now had to face the man she had mocked. And the yacht behind him was running. Daniel stepped away from the panel before anyone could accuse him of doing more than he had done. He closed the service cover gently and turned to Victor. It should stay at idle systems until the sequence log is reviewed. Victor nodded. Agreed. Claire found her voice. But it came out thinner than before. So it was a reset. Daniel looked at her then. Not angry. Not triumphant. I'm just tired of people making small words out of important things. It was a lockout your team kept trying to push around. Trent's face went dark. Careful. Daniel turned toward him. You didn't have a dead yacht, he said. You had a team ignoring the wrong warning. That sentence changed the dock again. The yacht was running. But the story was not over. Claire knew it. Victor knew it. Marisol looked down at her tablet as if something there had suddenly become dangerous. Trent stepped closer to Claire and spoke low. But Daniel heard the words anyway. We should move the guests aboard and control this. Daniel looked toward Ethan, still standing by the dock post. His son's eyes were full of pride now, but also confusion. Children can tell when adults are hiding a second truth behind the first one. Daniel had solved the startup fault in 4 minutes, but something else had been exposed in the silence after. The question was no longer whether the Aurelia 88 could start. The question was why the people paid to know her systems had ignored the warning that kept her dead. For several seconds after the Aurelia 88 came alive, nobody on Pier 3 knew what to do with their faces. The yacht's deck lights held steady. The bridge screens glowed behind the glass. The generator tones settled into a clean idle, smooth and even, as if it had never been the problem. That made the silence worse. People can explain away a broken machine. They can blame weather, software, suppliers, schedules, or bad luck. But when a machine starts after one quiet dock mechanic touches only the right sequence, it does not just prove he was right. It proves everyone else was looking in the wrong place. Claire Whitmore recovered the way powerful people recover when a room is still watching them. She stepped forward, clapped once, and turned toward her VIP guests with a smile that tried to reclaim the morning. Well, she said, bright and controlled. There you have it. Whitmore standards. Even under pressure. A minor startup reset. Handled efficiently. A few guests shifted uncomfortably. No one clapped with her. Victor Hale looked at Daniel. Then at the yacht. Then back at Claire. Daniel did not move from the panel. He could feel Ethan watching him from beside the dock post. The small blue and white toy boat hanging from his fingers. Daniel knew that if he let Claire rename the truth now, Ethan would learn the wrong lesson. He would learn that powerful people could laugh, be wrong, and still own the story. It was not a minor reset. Daniel said. Claire's smile froze. Trent Lawson's head turned sharply. The steady hum from the yacht seemed to grow louder around the edges of the dock. Daniel kept his voice even. The yacht was locked out because the system thought shore power transfer had not been cleared correctly after a failed prime attempt. That condition should have led your team to a maintenance bulletin. Not 3 hours of forcing main start. Trent laughed. But there was no confidence in it now. You got lucky with a sequence reset. Do not dress it up as a system review. Daniel looked at him. Then show the log. That sentence did what the startup had not. It moved fear into the open. Marisol Vega, the assistant dock manager, looked down at the tablet still in her hands. Claire saw it. So did Victor. Trent stepped between Daniel and the boarding stairs as if his body could protect the yacht's paperwork. "The logs are internal maintenance records," he said. "No dock contractor has authority to review them." Victor took one step closer. "He may not." "I do." Claire's eyes cut toward him. "Victor, you are here for the charter review." "Not a courtroom." Victor nodded. "Correct. And if I am reviewing a vessel for a charter client after a public startup failure, I am going to ask why a lockout sequence was missed by the vessel's own engineering team. One of the VIP clients, an older woman in sunglasses and a navy blazer, lowered her champagne glass. "I would like that answer as well," she said. That was the moment Claire lost control of the dock. Not completely, not loudly, but enough. Investors and wealthy clients do not need to shout to become dangerous. They only need to stop trusting the performance. Claire turned toward Marisol. "Bring up the maintenance log." Marisol did not move fast enough for Trent. "I'll handle it," he said. Marisol held the tablet tighter. "It is already open." Trent stared at her. "Close it." Marisol swallowed. She looked at Daniel. Then at Ethan. Then at the yacht, whose systems were now humming because one man had listened when everyone else had performed confidence. "No," she said softly. "I do not think I should." The word no can be small and still change a room. Marisol stepped to the service card and placed the tablet where Victor could see it. Claire moved closer. Her face smooth, but her eyes hard. The screen showed the Aurelia 88 readiness file, with checkboxes, dates, initials, and a maintenance bulletin flagged 2 days earlier. The text was not shown to the crowd, but Victor read enough to understand the shape of it. "Generator Prime Sequence Advisory," he said. "Shore power interlock reset after failed transfer. Mandatory review before public demonstration." Trent's mouth tightened. "Advisory language." Daniel pointed once, not touching the tablet. "Mandatory review." Victor looked at Trent. "Was it completed?" Trent answered too quickly. "It was deemed not applicable." Marisol looked up. "That is not what the note said." The dock quieted again. But this time the silence had edges. Claire's voice dropped. "Marisol." Marisol flinched at her name, then steadied. "The bulletin came in through service routing yesterday morning. I forwarded it to engineering. Trent told me to leave it out of the dock briefing because it would confuse the charter walkthrough. He said the manufacturer liaison already knew." Trent stepped toward her. "Careful." Daniel moved without thinking. Just half a step. Enough to put himself between Marisol and Trent's anger. He did not threaten. He did not raise his hands. He simply stood there. Victor noticed. Ethan noticed. Claire noticed too. "Open the completion record," Victor said. Marisol tapped the screen. The completion field showed a sign-off from Trent Lawson's office. But no technician notes. No reset confirmation. And no shore power isolation verification. Daniel exhaled slowly. That is why it kept failing. The system was doing what it was designed to do. It was refusing to start because the sequence was incomplete. Trent's face reddened. "The system started after your reset. That proves the yacht was functional." Daniel nodded. "Yes. It proves the yacht was protecting itself from a team that skipped the step." The words landed cleanly. Not cruel. Clean. That made them harder to dismiss. Claire turned away from the guests and spoke low to Trent. But the dock carried voices in strange ways. "Tell me this is not what it looks like." Trent's answer was quiet. But Daniel heard the old language of blame shifting. It was a timing issue. The demo pressure was high. We had the main systems ready. The bulletin was overly cautious. Victor closed the tablet case halfway and looked at Claire. Overly cautious is not a phrase I accept around a yacht full of guests. The older VIP client stepped back from the boarding stairs. 2 other guests did the same. Claire saw them move. Her public demonstration, meant to sell trust, was now making people physically distance themselves from her yacht. Daniel finally looked toward Ethan. The boy was no longer confused. He was watching every adult carefully, as if matching words to faces and learning which ones bent under pressure. Daniel wished he could tell him to stop learning this way. But life does not wait until children are ready before it teaches them how pride works. Claire cleared her throat and turned back to the group. Ladies and gentlemen, we will take a brief pause while our team reviews documentation. Victor did not let the sentence settle. The documentation is already clear enough for a preliminary finding. Mr. Cross identified the correct fault path. The vessel start sequence succeeded under supervision. The prior readiness sign-off appears incomplete at best. The older VIP client said, at best. That question cut through the expensive air. Claire's jaw tightened. Trent looked suddenly smaller than he had 10 minutes before. Marisol stood with the tablet at her chest like it weighed 20 pounds. Daniel stepped back from the center of attention. He had no interest in making the dock uglier than it had to be. But Claire had made a public bet. And Trent had made a private shortcut public by getting caught. There was no way back to the morning they had planned. Victor looked at Claire. If this were my survey, I would recommend suspending the demonstration, reviewing the service bulletin trail, and removing Mr. Lawson from direct control of today's operations pending review. Trent barked a laugh. You cannot be serious. Victor did not blink. I am often serious around vessels that almost get used as theater before they are ready. Claire held up a hand. Enough. For a moment. Daniel thought she would attack Victor. Or Marisol. Or him. Instead, she looked at the guests, the crew, the yacht, and finally, at Ethan, who stood small and silent near the dock post. Something in her face changed then. Not into kindness, but into calculation with nowhere comfortable left to go. The phones were out. The clients were watching. The surveyor was independent. The yacht was running because of the man she had humiliated. If she lied now, the lie would have too many witnesses. Mr. Lawson, Claire said, each syllable controlled. You are relieved of operational authority over the Aurelia demonstration pending an internal review. Trent stared at her as if she had slapped him. Claire, do not make me repeat it. 2 crew members looked down at the dock. Marisol closed her eyes for 1 second. Victor nodded once. Not pleased. Simply acknowledging that the first necessary thing had been done. Claire turned toward the guests. The demonstration is postponed. Whitmore Yachts will complete a full readiness review before any charter departure. Mr. Cross correctly identified and resolved the startup lockout under supervision. My earlier dismissal of his concern was inappropriate. The words sounded like they had to climb over glass to leave her mouth. The marina went silent again. This was the second silence. Quieter than the first, and more important, the first silence had come when the yacht started. This one came when Claire Whitmore admitted in front of everyone that the man she mocked had been right. Ethan looked at his father with a kind of wonder Daniel had never seen before. Not because the yacht ran. Children do not understand systems, logs, or charter deals. Ethan understood the shape of the moment. His father had been laughed at. Had stayed calm. Had helped anyway. And now the woman who laughed had to say the truth out loud. Then came the money. It had been hanging over the dock since Claire announced it. Bright and ridiculous and impossible to ignore. $1 million. A number Daniel had never imagined touching. Not in one check. Not in one life. Claire seemed to remember it at the same time the guests did. The older VIP client raised one eyebrow. And the bet Claire looked at Daniel. For the first time that morning, she did not look at his clothes first. She looked at his face. Whitmore Yachts honors its public commitments, she said. Mr. Cross will receive the $1 million award. A murmur moved through the dock. Daniel felt it pass over him like wind. Unreal and heavy at the same time, he did not smile. That confused people. It confused Claire most of all. Daniel looked at the Aurelia 88, still humming at idle systems. Then at Ethan. Then at Marisol, whose job might be safer now because she had told the truth. I will accept what you offered, he said, but I want the record clear. I did not fix a $40 million yacht in 4 minutes. I corrected the start sequence your team skipped and proved the vessel was never dead. Victor's mouth moved almost into a smile. That distinction matters. Daniel nodded. It matters to me. Claire's face flushed slightly. But she did not argue. She could not afford to. By early afternoon, the dock had emptied of guests and filled with consequences. Trent Lawson surrendered his access badge to Marina Security and left without looking at Marisol. A formal review was opened on his sign-off and service bulletin handling. Marisol was asked to provide a written statement and, to her surprise, was thanked by Victor for preserving the timeline. Claire's office drafted a statement calling the incident a readiness review correction, which was corporate language. But it still included Daniel's name. Victor insisted on that. He also insisted that Daniel be listed as a temporary systems consultant for any further diagnostic work on the Aurelia 88. Claire agreed, because by then, disagreement only made her look smaller. Daniel signed nothing without reading it. That took time. Because men who have been underestimated learn to inspect papers the way they inspect machines. The award would be processed through legal. The consultant fee was separate. Liability language was added. A clause confirmed that Daniel had acted under supervised authorization for the 4-minute sequence. Claire watched him read and said, almost sharply, "You are careful." Daniel did not look up. "I have a son. That was all." No speech. No accusation. Just the truth that explained everything. Ethan waited in the marina office while the adults finished. Marisol brought him a paper cup of lemonade and sat across from him for a minute. The blue and white toy boat rested on the table between them. "Your dad was very brave today," she said. Ethan looked toward the dock through the glass. "He was quiet." Marisol smiled sadly. "That is not the opposite of brave." Ethan thought about that for a while. Outside, Daniel stood beside Victor near the Aurelia's boarding stairs, reviewing one more panel state. He looked smaller than the yacht. Smaller than the white hull and polished railings and all the money around him. But Ethan no longer saw him that way. When Daniel finally came into the office, Ethan slid off the chair and ran to him. Daniel caught him with one arm and held him tightly. The way he had wanted to do all morning but could not because the world had been watching. Ethan's face pressed into his shirt. "You did know," the boy whispered. Daniel closed his eyes. "I knew enough to listen." Ethan pulled back. "Then, why didn't they listen?" Daniel looked through the window at Claire standing alone on the dock. Phone in hand. No crowd around her now. Because people often trust titles before they trust skill, he said. And sometimes they trust noise before they trust quiet. They walked the dock near sunset after the paperwork was done. The Aurelia 88 sat behind them. Calm and expensive, and no longer pretending to be dead. Its reflection moved in the marina water, broken by small waves. Ethan carried his toy boat in one hand and Daniel's fingers in the other. "Are we rich now?" Ethan asked. Daniel almost laughed. But the question was too honest to laugh at. "We are safer than we were this morning," he said. "That matters more." Ethan looked up. "Can we keep the garage?" Daniel squeezed his hand. "Yes." The word was small, but it carried 3 years of late bills. Tired dinners. And nights Daniel had wondered how to keep being steady for a boy who had already lost too much. At the end of the pier, Ethan placed the toy boat on the rail and let it face the sunset beside the real yacht. Mom would have liked that you listened, he said. Daniel's throat tightened. Lena's voice came back to him. Soft and clear from years ago if something complicated becomes quiet too suddenly. Listen closer. He looked at the water. At his son. At the yacht that had gone silent for all the wrong reasons until someone finally listened the right way. She taught me that, he said. Ethan picked up the toy boat and held it carefully. Then I'll listen too. Claire passed them on her way back from the dock office. For a moment. Daniel thought she might say nothing. That would have been easier for her. Instead, she stopped. The marina behind her was quieter now. Stripped of spectacle, leaving only water, rope, and the low hum of systems being checked properly. Mr. Cross, she said. Not loudly. Daniel turned. Ethan moved a little closer to his father's side. Claire looked at the boy. Then at Daniel. I was wrong to mock you. It was not a warm apology. It was not complete, but it was public enough that 2 crew members heard it. And honest enough that Ethan would remember. Daniel nodded once. Just make sure your people listen next time. Claire accepted that because there was nothing elegant to say back. She walked away toward the office. Smaller, without an audience. Daniel watched her go. Then looked at the Aurelia 88. The yacht was still beautiful. It had never been the villain. It had done exactly what it was built to do, refused to move until the right condition was met. Daniel understood that better than anyone on the dock. Sometimes a machine protects itself by staying quiet. Sometimes a man does too. But when the moment comes, silence has to become truth. As the sun dropped behind the marina buildings, Daniel and Ethan walked back toward the old service gate. No one laughed. No one called him dockhand like it was an insult. Marisol lifted a hand from the office window. Victor gave a small nod from the pier. The Aurelia 88 glowed behind them. No longer a stage for Claire's power, but a reminder of what had happened when a single father heard one wrong click and refused to let humiliation make him deaf. Ethan swung the toy boat gently at his side. Dad, he said. 4 minutes is not very long. Daniel smiled for the first time that day. No, he said, but sometimes it is long enough for the truth to start.